Good home, good education.
Good education.
Go to school.
Go to school and get a good education. That is what I have been told since I was a child, and that is what millions of people have been told since they were children. That's a great, solid, foundational piece of advice, but I'm not too sure that it applies today, at least in today's times. And today, I'm going to be discussing with you guys why I believe that the current student loan setup and process is a complete racket, and what we can do to try to work around it or minimize its impact as we are working adults and as we are young students going into the workforce or trying to find a new education or path to get a good job and a career. So let's hop into this. So I won't be very shy about this. I think the student loan process is a complete racket. I think the costs of colleges are ridiculous. I think the way that we're funneled into the college system is a racket. I hate all of it. Now, let me be very clear about this. I am a huge supporter of getting an education. Going to college is an amazing thing to do. You absolutely want to do it. You want to get a degree because it's just good to have. It shows that you've gotten higher education, that you've gotten advanced degrees, and that you're making attempts and have a path to better yourself. So I'm a huge proponent of college. What I'm not a proponent of are the student loans and how costly going to college is. So let's take this back to the beginning. Let's go all the way back. I want to start off with discussing pretty much how the student loan process started off and how it's kind of turned to the racket that it is. And then we're going to be discussing a lot of the challenges with income and exactly why I think the student loan costs need to come down drastically. Now, back in the beginning, as you guys can see here, it was funded by very low lending standards. When they first kicked off the lending process, it was a low barrier to entry because they wanted college to be affordable for everyone, and that's what they did. Lyndon B. Johnson, he signed the HEA, the Higher Education Act, for millions of students to be able to afford college and federally guaranteed loans. Now, the crazy thing about this is that this was a very positive thing on face value. But what it did was it caused colleges to basically say, well, we can charge whatever we want to charge for colleges, and there's not going to be any repercussions because the federal government is going to back it. And what you've seen over the past 50 years is that there has been a drastic increase in the cost of colleges. Fast forward to 1978. If you take a look here, some of the lawyers and doctors, some of the higher end degrees, right, the specialties, lawyers, doctors, engineers, well, they said, hey, we want to get these student loans discharged because we can't afford to pay for them. And you know what? They got them discharged. And then that was when the federal government said, well, we want to go ahead and just disallow that. Why do that? So we're going to just slowly extend it to where you can't do that for the first 5 years. Okay, cool. The rates dropped drastically. Fast forward to 1990. They then changed the period to 7 years. You guys seeing the pattern here? When they first kicked off the student loan process for everyone to be able to borrow money back in the 60s, it was very easy. And if something happened to where, if you got into a pinch like most families happen or individuals, and you went into like a bankruptcy, you were able to write off the student loan debt, similar to you would with like a credit card or anything else, any other kind of type of debt. But with the slow changes over the years, they basically removed that. Fast forward to 1998, they pretty much said that they eliminated it completely. So 1998, the federal government made it so to where you could not write off student loan debt. Let's kind of go over the student loan process and how I think it's so challenging and difficult, and just kind of explain to you guys what the student loan process is. So if you go and you take out $20,000, right, what happens is you take it out, the majority of the time, like 70, 80%, I don't know the exact number, but I know the largest amount of student loans that you Sallie Mae. So you take out a student loan, it's federally backed. The student, you, myself, whoever, fails to pay it. Got it. So then what happens? So what happens is after the period of time, it goes into default, 270 days, which is quite a bit of time. And then from this time, after a student loan goes into default, Sallie Mae gets it backed by the federal government, so which is pretty much just like it's a quasi-government agency. I'm sure you guys know that. So the federal government says, hey, don't worry about it, Sallie Mae. We know the student didn't pay it off. We'll give you the money. You're good to go. Sallie Mae says, cool. Thanks, GOVT. They take it and then they take your debt and then they sell it off to the General Revenue Service, which is interesting, or corporation, because they actually are owned by Sallie Mae. So the largest student loan lender in America has a collection agency. What the collection agency does is they then will tack on these ridiculous fees, these collection fees of 25%, and then another 28, 30% of commission fees. And then what they will do is that they will then turn around and they will garnish your paycheck. So what'll happen is you'll be at college, you couldn't afford to pay it, something happened, whatever life situations, health, divorce, child, can't pay it. Here you are on the hook for a ridiculous amount of money. So let's say you have a $23,376 debt is now gone for $35,765, just like that. And what makes this so challenging is in itself, this isn't too bad, but the problem is the cost of tuitions have gone up drastically. So if you guys take a look at pretty much the types of borrowers who default, it's everyone. There's the federal, there's the private student loans, then there's the public student loans. And as you guys know, most of those are public. But overall, the amount of private student loans and the cost has just gone up tremendously over the years. So starting back in even 98, 99, it was $44 billion. In 20 years, it has gone up to $94.5 billion. I want to touch on something else here as well. So I read this article on Prudential that talked about how student loan debt postpones dreams, threatens financial security, and says young adults. Well, pretty much what you guys will find here is that they talk about just how challenging it is in order to save up money, in order to have a home, in order to just invest, take care of retirement services, whatever it is, even get married, because the student loan debt is just so unbelievably taxing. It's gotten really out of hand over the years, and it just continues to get worse. And one of the reasons that this continues to get worse is because the colleges don't have any incentive to keep cost of colleges down. Now, what I mean by that is that if you are a college and you are allowed to charge whatever you want to charge for student loan debt, for your for your tuition, excuse me, right? Charge whatever you want to charge. So 20, 25, $30,000 a year. The colleges know that it doesn't matter whether you can or can't pay it. They are good to go. They will always get their money because of the federal government. So there's no incentive to keep costs down because there's no repercussions for colleges and universities. So one year it's 20,000, the next year it's 24, the next year it's 27, next year it's 28, next year it's 30, 32. People, books are not getting that much more expensive, okay? The cost of a book is the same cost of a book. I mean, there's a reason that colleges and universities change the activation codes with the new year books. When you 20, the 2023 model, the addendum version 4, and all of a sudden you have to pay $400 for some student key to get the same material that was in the last version, right? Because the study material and the test material online and they need that key. It's because it's a racket. They don't want people recycling the same books, the same material. I mean, and it's just gotten out of hand. So I want to take a look at the average cost of tuition as of 2022. Average cost $35,000. $35,000 per year for a student to go to college. So that means if you go to a 4-year college, you are financing a brand new Mercedes-Benz S550, S450, S-Class, fully loaded right out of the gate in order to go to college. Now, if you're a college student, you're likely broke. Ramen noodles, cheese, and hot sauce. At least that's my favorite. And you've just financed a Mercedes-Benz S550, and you can't pay it off. The cost of college has more than doubled in the 21st century. It's going up 7% a year. Now, here's the problem with this. Inflation. Inflation is just the cost of living in general, right? The rents, the gas, the McDonald's on the weekend, just whatever, right? A cost of red cups that you want to go buy at the Walmart or Target, to go to a party. Those are going up at minimum 1.5, 1.8% a year, just the overall cost of living. But we know that companies charge a lot more, right? The K cups for the coffees, the Burger Kings, the McDonald's, those things have gone up tremendously. It's no longer you have the dollar menu, but the burgers get smaller. Now it's $1.50. Now it's $2. And so what's happening here right now is that inflation's going up tremendously every year. The cost of tuition is going up tremendously every year, but people's salaries are not going up tremendously every year. So what's happening right now is that colleges have doubled, but on average since 1985, the average total cost of salary increases has just gone up 20% for the average household. 20%. Now I want to know, how is that possible if inflation itself is 1.5% to 2% a year, right? So that basically means that the average household is literally making the same amount of money today that they did 20 years ago. There have been no raises. And so if you guys are like, well, I'm wondering why things are tight right now, why, living is tight, money's tight, we don't know what's going on. It's because companies and businesses are not paying people enough money to equal what inflation is and to exceed it. And so because the cost of colleges are so drastic and they're going up so tremendously, it's really putting a tax on people because you're having to take out more student loans, which of course you can't afford because you're a college student or you're a working parent, and then more student loans and more student loans. And there's no cap on this. So it's not like they restrict us to just saying, okay, well, if you make a certain amount of money, you can only lend up to 30, 40,000. Because if they did that, colleges would be forced to lower their tuitions. And of course, we wouldn't want to do that because it's a for-profit business. I want to take a look at the countries that have free education. Now, a lot of people, when I see the word free, they cringe. Free means that it is paid through taxpayer money. Now, what I don't want to hear is I don't want to hear people say that we don't have enough money to pay for this. We absolutely do. On average, I think we pay about 40 to 50% of our income by the end of the year in taxes, right, on to the federal government. So there's money for this. Let's take a look here. We have Brazil, the Czech, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Iceland, Kenya, Luxembourg, Norway, Panama, Slovenia, and Sweden. All of these countries allow you to go to school paid by us, the taxpayers who pay our taxes, right, for no additional cost. Now, how is it that these first world European countries, super advanced, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think that Germany is where a lot of our doctors go to get the cutting edge technology in the medical field. They go over to Europe, get the latest technologies. They go to school, and then they come back over here to get to train American doctors. So it's not like we have the latest cutting edge everything. It's just our costs have gone up tremendously. But if you go to Germany, you guess what you pay? You pay nothing for a 4-year degree. So I don't want to hear like, we can't afford this. That's not true. Something else I want to talk about here. So I'm in the great old state of Texas. I love Texas. And take a look. Average tuition, $23,000. Keep in mind, you are a broke college student. You can't afford this, but you're going to have to be able to afford it. So what do? Take out student loans. It's gone insane. And if you're a non-resident, it goes up to $36,000. So you are eating burgers and you're taking out $36,000 in student loans. There's the likelihood of you paying this off fully is so low. It's not even funny. But who cares, right? Because the government is going to pay the colleges no matter what you do. I want to take a look at something here. College cost. On CNBC.com, colleges have increased by 169% since 1980. But the pay for young workers, only 19%. I'm sorry, I said it was 20. It's 19%. So this basically means that salaries have not gone up at all, but the costs are. It cannot continue. Let's take a look at something else. Trends in college pricing and student aid. So this is a very detailed document that's on research.collegeboard.org, and it's a lot of content, a lot of document. I won't bore you guys with it, but if you're ever curious to want to go and review it, right? This covers the trends in college pricing in 2021. This goes over the trends and to where you guys can see exactly how much college prices have gone up over the years. It's pretty crazy. It is pretty crazy. Now, for those of you who say, you're talking about free education, who's going to pay for this? We don't have the blah, blah. I don't want to hear all of that. Half of our debt right now goes to military spending, to make bombs and to, advanced technologies and stuff like that. So I don't want to hear it. The amount of money that we pay for our taxes for healthcare is astronomical, right? To get an MRI, to get a CAT scan is insane. But those are private industries, and I'll take that and I'll attack that one and touch on that on another video. But I want to go over the types of income that we have to pay. If you guys really sit down and think about it, we have income tax, right, that we have to pay. We have personal property tax, depending on the state that you live in. So, you have your car taxes. Obviously, if you own a home, you have to pay personal property taxes on that, which, oh, by the way, goes up every single year, no matter whether or not, well, I should say if your property values go up, they go up every single year. They don't stay flat. Your goods and services, you want to go book a hotel, you pay taxes. Every single thing you buy, you touch, or that you own, you have paid taxes on. And then what makes it even sillier is that that money has been paid taxes on over and over and over again, many, many, many times over throughout the year. So you take something, you pay taxes on it. You sell it. Let's say you buy a car, you sell it to someone, they pay taxes on it. They sell the car, that person pays taxes on it. Tax, titles, fees, and license. It's just gone through the roof. And so I think by the end of the year, you have paid probably about 50% of your income in taxes. This article here says that over the life of a person will have paid about $516,000 in taxes. Now, that's just the average person. Obviously, if you make more money as an employee, you will pay even more than that. But we absolutely have the money. The problem that we have for overall is that it is a private system when it comes to borrowing money. It's a for-profit system to where people are allowed to, I should say institutions are allowed to charge whatever they want to charge, knowing that the government is going to pay them no matter what happens. So there's no incentive to keep the cost down, to keep them fair, to not price gouge. And because we as citizens or as people have been told and funneled the go to school, get a good education, we do not question it ever because there's no other alternative that has been provided to us other than go to school, get education. So they could say it's $50,000 a year. Oh, got to go to school. 60, got to go to school. Right? 100,000 a year, got to go to school, get a good education. Yeah, but do you got to do it to that degree? So a few things are going to happen here. One of the things that's going to happen is that people are just going to say, we're not going to school anymore. And so a lot of the Gen Xers and Gen Ys, they are going to just pretty much say, we're not going to school, or the alternative is to say that you're going to go to vocational school or to a two-year college, and then transfer to a four-year college. That's a great, great way to do it because that will hopefully incentivize those four-year, really high-end for-profit colleges to lower their costs to make it more affordable. Because at the end of the day, when you think about going to a four-year degree, no one really cares, right? What school you went to? Not really, unless you went to like an Ivy League. And even then, no one really cares. It's just more the prestige and the people that you met. So long as you have a four-year degree, that's what matters. And so I pulled this article up here, and this is the last article of the video. Then they talk about how the for-profit colleges are extremely predatory, and this is pretty much a professor that taught here. Now, I want to be very careful when I criticize this particular person that I have here on the screen, but I am not a fan of her in the slightest. Since she has been in office and was appointed by the previous administration, she's done nothing but hurt college students. Every single policy, every single thing that legislation that she has passed has been to hurt students. We had the fraudulent activity that happened with all of the colleges, like the DeVries, that defrauded all of the students out of their degrees because they were discredited and were still in the money. Well, the government, aka the person here, believes that they should still be on the hook to pay that. Just ridiculous. There's also been a recent thing in the news to where Governor Biden is trying to overthrow some student loans that were actually thrown out to where the students were not going to have to pay it. And then the Biden administration is trying to overthrow that right now. So what we have here, guys, is we have pretty much a full circle to where we're going back to where we're going to have to figure out what can we do to circumvent this. I understand that if you guys are in a position, you want to go to school and you should want to go to school. School is amazing. I just want you guys to understand that it does not matter what school you go to. A lot of the times we get caught up in, well, I got accepted to this college, or I want to this college, or which college can I get into? When it comes time to the workforce, no one cares. I want you to put that on a piece of wall. No one cares. It's a big deal for you when you want to go register for colleges to say, I got accepted to this one or this one. But all that matters is that you graduate, you get your 4-year degree, and that it's hopefully in a field or industry that you want to work in, or ultimately, have a career in. Because there's a big difference between, going to school for $40,000-$45,000 a year and $20,000. But you don't really realize that until after you've gotten out of school and those student loans start kicking in, and then you realize, wait a second, I have a $1,500 student loan, but I applied for a job, and let's say you got a corporate job somewhere, but they're only paying me $21 an hour, or $19 an hour. I mean, how do you afford to pay it? You can't. So it happens a lot of the times as people default, but now that you can't default on this, you're going to be on the hook for it forever. So I just highly encourage you guys to make sure that if you're going to go to college, which you should, if you're going to, and by the way, it's a whole nother argument, college is not for everyone. It's not a mandatory, that's not an end all be all. But if you are choosing to go that way, do a 2-year degree, do a vocational school. There's a lot of pay in being a carpenter and being a person that knows how to build things, build houses, being a building engineer, just getting the skill sets to where you can do something that you enjoy is what really, really matters. I just want to make sure that you guys are not taking out these ridiculous student loans and not actually processing and understanding and knowing the type of financial constraints you're putting yourself under as you're going into adulthood. So hopefully you guys found this video semi-intriguing and entertaining. If you got to the end of it, I cannot thank you enough. You're probably one of the 3 people who has done that. So at that point, you might as well give me a thumbs and a like. Other than that, let me know what you guys think about it. Are you in school right now? Do you have current student loans? Are you struggling to pay it? Do you guys think that the student loan system is reformed, or should be reformed? And actually, here's a curveball. How many of you guys have considered or are considering going to school overseas so that you can go to school for free? Think about it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, hit the like. I'll talk to you later. Take care.